Live. All right, and we're live. This is Roger Lonergan. With Gamers Geek Radio. We're coming to you. We're going to be interviewing an author this week. Remember last time we did cosplay, so we're doing. I'll be interviewing Brian Parker. He's active duty military, and he is the author of a series of zombie apocalypse novels, in addition to some other apocalyptic fiction, primarily self-published. And I will introduce him right now. This is Brian Parker. Brian, go ahead.
Hey, how's it going? Yeah, so I do have to kind of step back. I am self-published and traditionally published. The Washington Dead City series, which is what we're going to primarily talk about, is published by Permuted Press. And I've actually got 4 books published through them. So 4 books traditionally published and 5 self-published.
Okay, so real quick, let's talk about the Washington Dead series. It starts off with Gnash, which is the first book in the series. You can give us just sort of an overview of what the first book starts like. How does it start?
So this is Gnash right here. You probably can't see it very well. It's the Pentagon. So I wrote Gnash whenever I was working at the Pentagon. And so I had just started writing at the time. Well, had begun writing again and actually seeking publication. And so the book has it's not a heavy military feel, but it's got a definite military qualities. A lot of people have said they liked how they could tell that it was written by a military person, but I didn't overwhelm people with jargon or anything like that. So basically the premise behind the story is that there's a terrorist organization that has been kind of in the shadows, for a millennia, really. They started out, they're based in the Middle East. They started out as a different, just a standard fundamentals type organization. And then over time, they adopted Islam as their religion. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of went down that path in the past 1,000 years or so. And so they unleashed a series of attacks globally. The 2 biggest ones that take place in this story, at least that I discuss, they assassinate several heads of state at the G8 summit. So it's being held in Portland, Oregon. They assassinate 5 world leaders, including the president of the United States. And then, so now you've got all these people that were the vice presidents, vice leaders in their nation, and they're elevated to the highest position in whatever nation they happen to have been in, mm-hmm. or been part of. And then simultaneously, they infiltrate the Pentagon into a retirement ceremony, and unleash a virus from the Pentagon that ends up. Their goal was to just kill everyone, but it ends up mutating once it gets airborne, and it becomes the zombie virus. So then now the political side of the story is you have all these folks who are now in these world leaders who are making the decisions for their nations, and they weren't necessarily the ones that the people elected, because you know how typically a vice president's the right. carrier, the one that goes along with them, and so they don't necessarily
Joe Biden is the president.
The best, right? So they don't necessarily make the best decisions. I'll say it that way.
All right, and then so now we got zombie. What sort of zombies are you going with here? Are you going with your George Romero style, your zombies out of 28 Days Later? How did you? Which one did you pick, and why did you pick that particular brand?
So actually, I really like both styles. I like the fear-inducing, fast zombies like in the 28 Days Later and the ones in World War Z, the movie, the kind that just like will overwhelm you and take over whatever place is. Although I also really like the slow trotting dread of the standard shambler type zombie. So I actually used both. So the guys that were in the Pentagon, the ones that were the initial infectees, they're actually the fast zombies type. And they can actually still maintain a higher cognitive function and can think and try to plan and stuff like that, plan on how to get out and all that sort of stuff, but they still, they still want to attack humans and kill them. And then the people that they infect, that they bite or scratch or anything like that, become the secondary infections, and those are actually just a slow, normal, George Romero type zombies, the ones that will just overwhelm you with crowds. So yeah, I liked them both, and so I put them both in the series.
Okay. And then, okay, so full disclosure, you're active duty, I'm active duty too. How much of what goes on with that shows up in the book? I know. Are you trying to make it a little bit more realistic, or are you going kind of the Tom Clancy route where everything works the way it's supposed to work?
No, so one of the things that I'm known for in my writing is how realistic it is. Yeah, I mean, obviously you have to have a suspension of reality because it's zombies, and zombies don't exist, all this stuff. But I make everything as realistic as possible. People have to change magazines. They can only carry so many rounds of ammo. You know what I mean?
Right.
They can get overwhelmed by odds. And they get tired. So I really try to bring in. I've been in the Army for 20 years. So I try to bring in an element of realism. I started out as an enlisted guy, as a medic. So I do try to bring in a little bit of the not a lot, but a little bit of the medical stuff, and especially like field medic type things. But yeah, there's no bending bullets, or anything like that around obstacles and stuff like that. It's as realistic as you could possibly make a fictional character.
The hand grenade that takes out half the building, and
right, that blows up right next to you and you're fine. Yeah. So
no, I think for me, I always get asked, with the movies, oh, what do you think's the most unrealistic thing in the movie? And I said, go watch, something like The Bourne Identity. It isn't the fact that Jason Bourne's leaping across buildings or doing any of his other stuff. It's when they go into the command center and everyone has their own computer and they all work and everyone can get on the network at the same time and everything's real fast. That is probably the most nonsense thing I've ever out of that whole movie.
That would probably be about right. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's behind the curtain for everybody. That's the most unrealistic. It's not the Rambo stuff. It's the fact that everyone can. I think would make so that's the action piece. Now, what about how do you handle, how governments make decisions, the decision-making process?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
That they go through, because
the book has actually been described. The first book, which is Gnash, has been described as a political thriller with zombies. So I certainly didn't set out to write it that way. But that's just kind of what happened is, you go behind the scenes and you look at how the political decisions, and the cabinet members, how they would interact and deal with things. And so obviously I've never been at that level, but I worked at the Pentagon for 5 years, and I worked directly on a 4-star staff, worked directly for a 4-star, for a year and a half. So I at least know kind of how things work a little bit. I mean, obviously, like I said, I don't know how the president's cabinet works, so I tried to apply, my real world knowledge, to what I could, and just tried to make it, again, like I said, as realistic as possible, and what I thought would really happen. Like there's certain things that happen in the book that allow for insurrection, from certain subgroups in the population. So not only is the government dealing with zombies in the Washington, D.C. area, but they're dealing with, gang violence, everywhere else. And they're dealing with militias that have all stood up. And I wrote this book initially in 2013. And it actually, as 2015 and 16 rolls along, it really is becoming more realistic, how you have all these subgroups that could potentially, try to splinter off, if there was a destabilization of the centralized government, how they would try to splinter off and become their own entity, possibly. And again, I personally don't believe that. However, there's a lot of
Yeah,
correlation between today's what's happening in the news today, versus
if if those guys, when they're occupying the bird sanctuary in the middle of nowhere, remember to bring food and other things, then yes, that. Um, so now you have I so you have the first, so that the first book starts off. Now then you go into book two, Rend. So you have a time jump at this point, right?
Yep. So it skips 6 years in the future. So you've got the events that happen in book one, obviously, and this isn't really giving anything away. But at the end of Gnash book one, they realize that they don't have the manpower to stop something like this from spreading, but they can contain it. So they've built this massive wall or fortifications around the Washington D.C. area.
It's all T-balls.
The DMV, yeah, it's all T walls and shipping containers. So basically, they built this huge wall around the DMV, the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, just centralized around the Washington D.C. metro. And so then you've got the time jump 6 years in the future. You got the population of America has already kind of sort of forgot that not that they've really forgotten that it's happened, but there's a lot of urban legend like, oh, that didn't really happen. That this other event, the reason why that the wall was one of the reasons why the wall was built, which I'm not going to give away, but there's a massive event that happens in DC.
Right.
The population really believes that's why the wall is there, not because there's zombies. There's no such thing as zombies. So the population, the book opens with an 18-year-old kid who was in junior high whenever the wall was first built and zombies were around, and he's kind of, oh, this doesn't happen, and so it really just establishes, all right, you're an idiot. and kind of how quickly our society seems to forget things that happen in our very recent past. And so that for book two, it goes away from the military side of things, but it follows the FBI. So you've got an election cycle and a new president who comes in, and his platform whenever he's campaigning is that he's gonna recover the Declaration of Independence. He's gonna recover the Constitution. He's gonna recover the Bill of Rights. And so that's kind of one of his platforms is we're gonna recover our heritage from DC. And so they end up, the government obviously knows there's zombies there. And so they establish some teams to go in to the National Archives to try to rescue this stuff. And along the way, they discover that the organized crime, the mob, has been infiltrating the wall, stealing money from banks, stealing works of art from all the galleries they're in that area.
I love that. That's
So there's the mob element in this book. So that's the cool part, I think. Is kind of, even though it's still talking about zombies, and it's still the political aspect of it. Now you've got the mob that's in there, just trying to gum up things, and the mob has worked out how to get around the zombies and how to deal with them, so they can steal this stuff and make money. And it's not just like the Italian mob, there's Japanese mobs and everything. So it's just a whole, but all the criminal underworld, it has kind of flocked to the area, and nobody's stopping them.
So, and then, okay, so now you centralize everything into the DC area. We got, criminal elements, intelligence agencies, recovering this. Now this is a 5-book series.
It's a 3-book series.
3-book series.
So,
okay.
So Rend actually comes out on the 2nd of March. So it's on next Tuesday. It comes out.
Okay.
And I've already got my advanced author copies of that one.
Nice.
But so that comes out on the 2nd of March, like I said, and then book 3, which is called Sever, that comes out on the 5th of April. So the publisher really wanted to hit binge readers. So we came out on the 9th of February, the 2nd of March, and then the 5th of April. So we're just like bam, bam, bam. And so the premise behind Sever is that the the zombies have figured out how to get out from behind the wall. So they have escaped. And again, the concept of the sentient zombies, the original zombies, I call them ones. The concept that they can think and plan and are sneaky. That kind of plays into it, on how to get the rest of the zombies out of the city. And so it really starts to take on more of a traditional zombie apocalypse type series. The main characters in the book, for book 3, is a company commander from the New York National Guard. He's a tank company commander, and so it opens with him trying to defend his company trying to defend the bridges into New York City, because as the creatures are sweeping north from Washington D.C. There's five main bridges that go into DC or into New York City.
Or New York City.
So his company's got one of them. The other companies have the others. Anyways, long story short, they fail, and they become one of the only surviving heavy armor companies to the east of the Appalachians. So they are that tank company is the support by fire positions. And the main heavy force. For all these dismounted National Guard dudes and militiamen that are trying to cover the evacuation of civilization to the west of the Appalachians, and then where the government has built another line of defenses along the Appalachians where they can canalize, if they got that far, they could canalize the zombies into kill boxes. So again, this one's very much on the military side.
Yeah. So I'm already I'm sitting there because I understand what I was like. Yeah, that sounds like it'd be great. Now, so your book 3 is going to be. It sounds like it has a real kind of Team Yankee feel to it, where you have the small, low level, a mech company, or Abrams company, which has got like 8. How many tanks?
14 tanks.
14 tanks?
Yeah.
So 14 tanks against the zombie hordes, M1s. So
right, and you've got, obviously, you've got thousands of militiamen and dismounted guys, but they just don't have the heavy armor force. And the Air Force really plays into it. Obviously, with their technology and their weaponry they can bring to bear. But on the ground following them, it's the tank company. And then the second main character of the book, actually the primary character of the entire series, is the CIA, the retired CIA operative from book 1. He was still active at that time. In book 2, he's brought in to assist, with the works of art, the document recovery. And then in book 3, a series of events that happened in book 2 and then in book 3 have turned him to the idea where it becomes a vendetta to wipe out the sentient zombies that he knows are in DC.
Nice.
So that's where he goes on his own personal journey, a very fatalistic journey. He knows what's going to happen, but he has a mission set, and that's what he does. So, and ultimately he's the main character. It's funny because it's Kestrel is his code name. Right. In book one, he was in the book for maybe 35 pages.
Mm-hmm.
And then in book 2, he's the main character. So,
all right. Now some of the other books you have the Path of Ashes. Yep. Series. There's I'm looking on your Amazon page right now.
Yeah, so there's 3 books in that series as well. And just to be crazy, I'm going to hold up the book. So you got Path of Ashes, which is book 1, and then Fireside, which is book 2. And then my editor is currently looking at Dark Embers, which is book 3. And so I'm hopeful to have that one released this month. Because once my editor gets edits back, go through what she's got, and so I'm hoping to release that in between Rend and Sever. So that'll really help me to saturate the market, in a small time frame. but the Path of Ashes series, it follows two college students. So they're not like super prepper guys, nothing like that. None of my characters in any of my books are these preppers that are prepared and they know what's going on. Well, I mean, minus the some of the military folks in Washington Dead City series. But they're everyday people. They're put in extraordinary situations that either they learn to cope or they don't, and they suffer for it. So in that series, you got these two college kids that get wrapped up in a global issue where you've got a guy who is trying to bring about what this character calls the reset, because he's got a group of computer hackers that knows how to shut down the network, how to shut down power grid, how to shut down water and all this stuff, and also to launch nuclear weapons from other countries and from our country as well. And so in his mind, by doing this, it will bring about this reset, and be able to reset the clock, on humanity. And obviously the city that they live in, which is Austin, where the hackers live, excuse me.
Right.
They don't target Austin, so that they would be the foundation of society moving forward. And that's where these two college kids are. They're attending college at the University of Texas at Austin. So they get embroiled with these folks, and ultimately they decide to go to Springfield, Missouri, to try to recover or rescue the main character, Eric Trax, try to recover his family from Springfield and bring them back to Texas, where it's not nearly as bad with the radiation and everything. So the story kind of follows them along, and being a military guy, you have the opportunity to talk to a lot of folks and about certain weaponry and everything. So I was able to spend a few hours with some of our NBC dudes who were like specialized in the nuclear field, and kind of learning about like all M-class stuff, obviously, but like learning about like EMPs and NBCs and high altitude bursts, and how the Russians had planned, well, when we had planned to do like a high altitude burst, lots of gamma radiation and wipe out people but leave structures intact, all that sort of stuff.
Right.
That with a very rapid decay of radiation, so forces could move through quickly after the half-life of the radiation goes out. Anyways, so these guys are able to go through certain areas, that had been like that, that had been attacked that way because the hackers had just hit launch on pre-planned targets. So they didn't know what it was, and it's the Red River Arsenal was like the primary one where they're going through, where all the military gear is, but the plan, was to leave all the buildings intact, just kill all the people.
Right.
So anyway, so book one kind of goes through with them, going to Springfield and then heading back to Austin, and then they relocate to a town called San Angelo, which is about 120 miles to the west of Austin. And then so book two picks up where the events from book one have caught up to the main characters, and so the people from Austin are to attack the two main characters who now live in San Angelo, and so that's kind of how the entire book is preemptive strikes by the main character Eric, try to kill the leader of the gang in Austin, because now they've evolved beyond computer hackers. Like all the computer nerds were killed off, and it was just like it's a standard post-apocalyptic type gang. And so book two is really about the interaction between those two organizations, those two entities. And then book three is it takes place about 110 years after that.
Wow.
Book two.
That's a time.
So book one follows the main character. Book two is told by the main character's grandkid. So it's about the main character, but it's told by his grandkid because events happen. And then book three obviously is about 115 years in the future. So the establishment of a medieval type society is well on the way.
Right.
And so there's certain parts of the population, like California is all very, very sort of Romanesque. They have gladiatorial combat, that's the entertainment for the people is let's go see the fights, so they go and watch people kill each other. And then, in the Colorado, where the folks, where the main group of people now live, they've moved from San Angelo. They're very much in trying to establish like a legit society, like a very agrarian type society where they grow food, they grow crops, they have trading partners and all this stuff. And so it like I said, it really becomes more of like a medieval feel. So it's very, very different. Book 3 is very different than book 1 and 2, but it's got a lot of the same elements. Like they're avoiding radiation and all this stuff. So.
Right. Still, 110-year time jump. So, you're probably going more they're riding the Fury Road, eternal, shiny, and chrome at that point.
Right. And there's, it's very, horse and buggy, in cavalry warfare, and in fact the main Trax family, which is the guys in California, or excuse me, in Colorado, their main battle formation that they have now is the phalanx, because it works very well. So it's kind of a blend of early U.S. history, or early human history and mid human history. So.
Okay. And then you have Enduring Armageddon.
So that is another Permuted Press book. So it's a standalone. That's a post-apocalyptic. And I don't have it. Unfortunately, it's available. It's only available in ebook. But the original self-published version is this one right here. You probably can see that every once in a while. You can see a print version of that that'll come available every once in a while. But now, besides secondhand stuff, it's only available in ebook. And so that one again is the main character, Chuck Broussard. He's totally unprepared. He's a financial planner, and living in Chicago whenever events go down. And so the story is really about how he saw this Discovery Channel show one time about how a nuclear winter would happen. And so in his mind, so if there's a nuclear winter, or if there's a nuclear war, which is the premise behind the book, that within the first page, 95% of the population is wiped out from nuclear war. So in his mind, he has to go south, because he's seen this TV show and he's got to go south. He's got to go south. He knows this, because living in Chicago is not a good thing. So he and his wife end up traveling south, and get caught up in a town in southern Illinois called Verdun. Have you heard of it? You're from
Verdun.
No. But anyways,
it's probably
kind of sort of near Cairo.
Yeah, there's a lot of towns. Once you get out it's probably like 400 people or something.
I think it's like 1,200 people, something like that. It's really small. Anyways, so they get stuck, for lack of a better term, in this town, and so we come to find out there's a prepper, who's on a TV show like Prep for Doom or something, one of those TV shows, and so he has now used that to propel himself into, I know what's going on and I'm the mayor of the town now.
Oh, geez.
So he ends up being kind of a bad guy, obviously, and so long story short, the main character doesn't know where he fits in life, because his wife is a school teacher and she has something to offer the community, but he doesn't have anybody. He's a financial planner. What does he have to offer the community? So he ends up just being one of the guns and raids warehouses and stuff like that, and has a lot of adventures that way. And then eventually they escape and continue further south towards they're heading towards Texas and Arizona ultimately. And a lot of people really, really have identified with this book because it's a standalone, number one, but I really got into the mindset of the character. It's written from the first person perspective, so that's where you can really, really understand what's going on in someone's mind. Although there is problems with that, because you only know what's happening to that person, so you don't know what's going on over here, what this character's thinking, or like that. the main character's thinking. But I was able to really, really get in that guy's mind, and how he started out as kind of the everyman, of America, and then ends up going so far because of his experiences, going so far to the opposite side where he's like borderline crazy, because he's like, he's one of these people who shoot first, ask questions later, not even ask questions, just kill people, and then kind of reining himself in and like, whoa, this is not who I am, and starts reining himself in, and tries to reevaluate his life, and over time, he recovers his humanity. But it's just the situations that he's put into that have made him go off the deep end for a little while, but then he's able to bring himself in. And like I said, because it's in the first person perspective, I'm able to really get in the character's head and work through it.
Nice. But the majority of your stuff is dealing with post-apocalyptic fall of society, in different ways, whether it's an outside entity like hackers or what have you, internal collapse. What's attracting you to this? Like, well, this seems to be your primary setting for your fiction. Why this one?
I don't know. I mean, ultimately, I don't know. I do believe that. I do think that there's the potential for our society to collapse. I personally don't think it's going to happen in my lifetime, but I do think that I see like the way that the incidents will spiral out of control. Social media will help to feed the flames for truly horrendous things that turn into major disasters. Police brutality, gang violence, whatever, will end up spiraling out of control. And so I kind of think that there is the element, at some point that something could potentially happen. And also, I mean, the Earth's population is what, 7.2 billion now?
Something like
that. I mean, it's doubled since 1950. So it's like crazy how quickly it's expanded. So at what point, and truth in lending, I was an environmental geography major in college, but at what point can the Earth no longer sustain all these people? In nature always corrects itself. You look at, just pretty much look at a desert island, or an island. Nature, the animal population will only grow to what it can sustain, but we are creating genetically modified crops. We're breeding mosquitoes that will interact with other mosquitoes and kill off a bloodline. We're creating. I mean, you can go the far side. We're creating robots that you can download AI into, or human memories into the AI. We're cloning sheep. So at some point, how much human meddling is too much, and added to the fact that we have people that are living, 95, 100 years. I mean,
that's actually more common now. Like life expectancy is
right.
And you see it. I mean, that's part of, where I got true. Once again, the truth is, I'm a business major, so it's why younger people are having a harder time finding work is because people are staying employed longer.
Right.
So, there's a lot of reasons for that. I'm not even going to go. We could have a 2-hour program on why that is, but so, I mean, just look at 2008, 2009, what happened there.
Yeah. I mean, well, and look at 2005 Hurricane Katrina.
Mm-hmm.
About a week and a half, and New Orleans was a borderline war zone. I mean, there were.
It also says something about New Orleans, too.
Right. But I mean, like, society literally broke down
Oh,
You
it
know,
did
it was
totally.
it was.
The
I
mayor,
mean,
the mayor left the city. Like he
yeah,
abandoned, totally quit.
and I was in First Cavalry Division at the time. You know, Second Brigade, First
Yeah.
Cav, Blackjack drove down from Fort Hood to New Orleans to assist down there, and the the stuff. I mean, the sheer level of, I mean, lunacy that was going on down there. I mean, everyone knows about the rapes and murders in the Superdome, and I that sounds callous to me, be like everybody knows about it, but I mean, it was just so insane that this was going on a lot. But we had people, as we were bringing buses in to actually ship people out of the Superdome, people just standing in line, and they didn't want to lose their place in line, so they just dropped trout and took a crap right in line. And it was just like, what is happening? This is there's a porta potty like right over there, like 150 feet. You know, and obviously, you know, there's the porta potty is probably nasty, but it's better than like dropping your pants in
Dropping
line, just
trowel
crapping right there. You know, and
or or
it's just like,
bag
what?
or
This is
how about
America.
or Baghdad? Like
Yeah, I mean,
where life is not normal.
yeah,
Not at all.
it was just crazy, and that's, I think, maybe that experience is one of the things that kind of solidified in my mind, like what is going on with society, and look how quickly, you know, the lack of food and water, fresh food and water, you know, lack of government, or
Or,
lack of police presence to keep people in line,
or
how quickly
let's
things go south.
okay, so all right, you and I were both in Baghdad, right? So
Mhm.
how about this one? We don't even go with food and water. The lack of sanitation, any kind of like person to take the garbage away to a dump.
Well, I have
I
a
mean, you
different view
saw
on that,
what, yeah,
because before 2003 they had a functioning garbage disposal system, they had a functioning sewer system, they had functioning water, they had a kind of sort of power grid. And I'm not saying we shouldn't have went in there, obviously, you know, because
yeah.
I
Let's not go there.
agree.
But you see what
But
happens when those things go away, though.
yeah, I mean, they
Like,
had it and then it disappeared, and then that's when it just like went off the deep end.
yeah, and there's nothing to replace it. It's not like
Yep.
you know, and people over here are kind of, well, why don't they just? It's a little harder than that. There's a little bit more to it, though.
Right.
You know. Uh, now, granted, you mentioned in your second book, you were talking about the mob. You know, it's like, you know, there's a reason that, you know, they're in sanitation.
True.
So, um, but let's see. Now where are we going? What's next? Where are you going from here?
So I'm currently writing a fantasy, sci-fi noir,
Okay.
not fantasy, excuse me, sci-fi noir. So kind of think Blade Runner. Um,
Right.
so it's gonna be a series set, oddly enough, in New Orleans. It's in the future. So
there's gonna be people standing in a line. A dude is gonna.
right, no, but it's set in the future, and again, with the environmental geography background, you know, I kind of realized that, you know, our climate runs in cycles. You know, 10,000 year cycles is what we're on. You know, sometimes we're really warm, sometimes we're really cold, and so the cycle that the society is in at this point is a cold spell, um, not like in some movies and anything, like where everything's like freezing like crazy, but so the polar ice caps have expanded, you know, and it's actually, you know, taken the coastline and expanded the coastlines, because, you know, all this water is being sucked up by the polar ice and it's being frozen. So in New Orleans in the future, in my future at least, there's this whole area that was taken up by Lake Burgoyne, that's now land, and so they went in and they have set up this a huge slum slash Sin City type area called Easy Town, you know, the Big
Nice.
Easy. Um, so basically, the area has 15 sex clubs. It's got all these sex with like human prostitutes, robot prostitutes, because again, it's in the future. Just all these clubs, and just basically any kind of vice you can think of is in Easy Town. And so the series, and again, I'm only about 2 chapters in, and I've kind of fleshed out a little bit. Series is going to follow a detective a homicide detective, and
Mhm.
in book one, there's been murders in the sex clubs, and he's trying to, excuse me, and he's trying to figure out, are these related? Are these unrelated? What's going on? And ultimately, they're going to end up being related, and it's going to have some implications, citywide. So if you kind of think of that dark, gritty future of Blade Runner, that's kind of what I'm going for a little bit, except it's also like an offshoot of 1950s society where yet everything was like about technology, and everything was like, oh, this product's going to save or this product's going to speed up your life, and this product's going to be the coolest thing. No, we're going to have, they thought the Jetsons, we were all going to have pills to eat, to take for our food and all that stuff. So not that far, obviously, like the campiness of it, but where you've got all these gadgets, that are supposed to improve your life and help you out, but in reality, it's just crap. And so like one of the things, like the guy has self-tying shoes, and one of them is broken, so he always has to tie one shoe, and the other shoe ties itself, and he can never get them the same tightness. And then another one is like every time he takes a piss, in a public bathroom, it tells him, you've got so much protein in your urine, you've got all this stuff,
Oh, gosh.
and it announces it to the world, and he's just like, Jesus Christ, so
That's awesome.
kind of taking the technology, like I said, kind of the campy's 50 and kind of morphing it a little bit.
We need that for the UA guy.
Right?
UA.
Just instant notification.
Instant notification. Please go see your company commander. You will be chapter. Oh gosh. No, I swear to God, it's a poppy seed bagel. So now, is this new book going to be part of the publish, like through a publisher, or are you self-publishing this one?
I don't know yet. So I do have my own publishing imprint. Primarily why I set up Muddy Boots Press, which is my publishing company, was so that I could get books in Barnes and Noble, because Barnes and Noble is notorious for not taking products that are produced by CreateSpace, which is owned by Amazon.
Okay.
It's kind of the inside of the publishing world, but so Amazon is Barnes and Noble's direct competitor. So if you've self-published, and you've purchased a ISBN through CreateSpace, or been assigned an ISBN through CreateSpace, Barnes and Noble won't carry your book.
Wow.
And they won't let you do book signings or anything like that at their stores. So on my very first book, I ran into that problem, and so since then I've established my own imprint, and actually I've got one other author on my team. We're trying to grow the press a little bit, but I mean, I've got a 5-year plan. Only adding 1 to 2 authors a year, so I've got plenty of room to grow. But I don't know if I'm going to publish that one through Muddy Boots Press. I mean, it's self-publishing, really. I don't know if I'm going to do that, or if I'm going to seek traditional publication on that one as well. I'm leaning towards traditional publication for the series, but we'll see.
Which do you prefer? Are you preferring the self-publishing route, or going more traditional?
I mean, it's a mixed bag. The self-publishing route, you have 100% control of. The royalties are astronomically better. So I mean, the money that you get out of it is astronomically better than going through a publisher. However, the exposure that a traditional publisher can give you, that's where the real key is. Because I was 100% happy being a self-published author, and Gnash was originally self-published before I submitted it for publication, and I was 100% happy. I enjoy self-publishing, but the potential. I mean, you reach a point where you can only hit so many potential readers, whereas through a publishing company that has 100,000, a lot more
Right.
people who follow their books. So it's a give and take. I mean, do you want to have complete control of the project, because there were things about Gnash that I didn't necessarily like how it was done. But ultimately, I think it ended up a better product anyways, even though I personally was like, I would do this differently. because I was very, very skeptical about the burning Pentagon, even though that's where the
You're talking on the cover.
stuff happened. Yeah, because the cover is, the
There's some,
Pentagon in flames on one side, and it was like the kind of
yeah,
invoked visions of 9/11.
yeah.
But at the same time, I mean, the publisher's like, this is what we believe will go, and there's been overwhelmingly positive response, for that cover, especially since it does happen at the Pentagon, and I see, the reasoning behind it. But again, there's still, back of my mind, it's kind of like, oh, it's 9/11,
Yeah, it's like, you really, yeah.
Right. But you don't have veto power, whenever you're, the staff author, or not a staff author, but an author for a publishing company. I was able to obviously, get things tweaked and stuff like that, and from the baseline artwork they'd already paid for. But I couldn't be like, no, that's no, that's just no good.
Yeah, if you were Stephen, you're not Stephen King or anything,
right?
Just like,
yeah.
Now, have you thought about having any of your stuff transferred and do an audiobook or
yeah? So two of my books right now are in audio. Origins of the Outbreak, which we didn't talk about, is a zombie book. That's available in audio book as well. And that's really, that one's drastically different than anything I've written, because it doesn't have a main character, number one. It's just a series of short stories that all center around the first couple days of a zombie outbreak. So it's kind of like, it follows the chain of infection from person to person, and how the person from chapter 2 is now over here in chapter 3 and 4 doing stuff, and so it really just kind of, it's very, very different. And I kind of equate it to, if you got a short attention span, or you don't have a lot of time to read, this book is for you, because like each story is like 5 to 10 pages long. So, but again, they're all interrelated and they all build upon each other, but it's kind of cool that way. So that's available in audio, and then A Path of Ashes is available in audio. The Collective Protocol is currently being produced in audio. That's another one we didn't talk about. That's a paranormal thriller.
Okay. So
yeah, I'm kind of all over the place.
That's fine. The start of the not the start. The Origins of the Outbreak is one. You're back with zombies again.
Yep.
Or initially you were with it. I don't know where this is. You're now what was the last one? The Path of...
So A Path of Ashes is currently available, and then Fireside is being produced as well. So I've got two books that are being produced right now. Fireside, which is
for audio.
So Fireside is book 2 of The Path of Ashes, and then The Collective Protocol is another standalone, and that's the paranormal thriller about mind control.
Okay, so and I'm looking at it right now online. It's got the Canadians, I guess, there's a Canadian flag on it. So
the Canadians
Canada is finally launching its evil plan. They're not as good as we think they are.
It's funny because I actually worked for a Canadian Defense Force colonel whenever I wrote that book. So
yeah, they're gonna come over and give us their socialized medicine or whatever, and
it's already started.
See, that's what it is. So describe the Collective Protocol. So this is really different, because I don't know if this is actually, there's an apocalypse involved in this at all, but I guess
I mean, so kind of the premise behind it is there's a set of twins that are separated at birth, and people today are like, oh, twins separated at birth, how does that happen? But so one of them was healthy. Uh-oh.
What's up?
Oh, okay. I lost you for a second.
Nope.
So
I'm here.
One of the twins is healthy, and the other one, is not. Has been given up for, both of them been given up for adoption. The one that's not healthy, they don't anticipate that twin living, for more than a few days. And so a family adopts the healthy one, and then goes about their way, or goes and does their thing. And then the one who is unhealthy ends up surviving, and then bounces around the foster care system. It experiences some pretty horrific stuff, in the foster care system. And she develops the ability to control minds and telepathy. And her hatred of her twin sister, who has this perfect life, with the perfect family, who takes care of her and all this stuff, just grows over time because of all the things that she experiences while she's in the foster care system. And she ends up running away when she's a teenager, and then going north to Canada and gets adopted by a Canadian guy up there who experiences a meteoric rise to fame in Canada. No joke, because she can control minds and control the population's voting. And then so over time they develop what's called the collective protocol. And so the plan is to use her abilities, augment her abilities through mechanical means, through repeaters and stuff like that, to destabilize the relation. And she's on board with it because because of the foster care system that the US has. She hates the US, and she hates her twin sister, and all this stuff. And so, kind of long story short, she ends up taking over animals' minds, running animal.
Hello? Okay, are you good?
Over the police force and having the
All right,
police fight.
We lost you. You're gonna back up a little quick. Yeah, you cut out. So okay, animals. We're controlling animals right now. That's where we
Yes.
lost.
So, yeah. Sorry. So she controls animals. Has them go into traffic and cause big massive pileups. And she take birds into plane engines to cause plane crashes. And then she graduates into, over time, her powers get stronger, and she begins taking over the police force, and having the police force kill random people. And so the people are now going against the police, and just a big disaster that begins really destabilizing the US. She assassinates a couple prominent folks, like the head of the FBI, through the FBI sniper that was overwatching his position while he was giving a speech. Takes over that guy's mind and kills him. So just a lot of little things. And then kind of the side story that's going on at the same time is she's going into her twin sister, the twin sister who had the perfect life. She's going into her world and really screwing with her, and she can't affect, or she can't do anything to her twin sister because she can't control her mind, but she can control the people around her. And so she gets her implicated in a mass murder scene at a club, and all these things end up happening around her. The police and the FBI are like, seriously, what is going on with you particularly? Why is this happening to you? And they have her as a suspect, for all sorts of stuff, until they realize that, it's someone else, and then so obviously fast forward through time, you have the climactic battle with sister versus sister. So.
Okay, so wrapping,
and that one's being produced in audiobook. So
okay, that one's being produced right now in audiobook. Yeah. Now to wrapping up real quick, advice you would give to budding authors, because clearly you're a busy guy. You got a full-time gig. Army, I know what you do, and that's never easy. The 3 shop always is juggling 12 or 13 balls at one time. And family.
Right.
So how, for new authors, like how do you manage that and do this? How
carve out time for writing. For me personally, what I do is I write after my wife and kids go to bed. They usually go to bed around 9:15, 9:30. So I write after they go to bed. I get, I'm also blessed with not needing a lot of sleep, but I get like 2.5 hours of writing done a night after they're asleep. And I also write on Saturday mornings, Sunday mornings, but making time for yourself to actually write. You would not, well, you probably would, but television is a huge time drain. Like, so much time is wasted on TV. It's not saying that I'm like, some monk who doesn't watch TV or whatever, but I do. The TV shows I watch, I DVR, and then I fast forward through commercials. It's more than you get rid of, 45% of the time is taken up with commercials. So you can watch an hour show in 35 minutes. So little tiny things to try to gain as much time back as possible.
Right.
But just keep at it every day. That's the biggest thing, is to keep writing, and to learn. A couple years ago, I would have disagreed with this, but now kind of getting more experience. But learn to take constructive criticism. Your story is still your story, and no one can change your story, but people can help you and make it better. Don't get offended if someone says, that's not really how this would happen. So many people, especially in online writing groups, or they are the traditional keyboard warrior. They will get behind a keyboard and say, oh, blah blah blah, and they'll tell people a new one, about how, this is my story, and it'll go back and forth, and it's just crazy, like some of the fights that people get into. And it's take deconstructive criticism for a grain of salt, and constructive criticism, apply it to your work and try to make your things better. Because if someone's taking the time to give you constructive criticism, they more than likely want to see you succeed. If someone's just tearing you down, then obviously, disregard that. It's water off a duck's back.
Right.
But learn how to take that constructive criticism, and it's very hard, because you spend hundreds of hours on each book. I mean, there are people that don't write nearly as fast as I do, and they really, really do a whole lot more. And so some people spend thousands of hours on a book.
Right.
And then whenever someone, disagrees with them on how something would go, even if it's constructive, they don't know how to take that. And they're like, no, this is exactly how it would go down. And I mean, at least examine what people say. That would be my biggest advice, is think about what people say, and if it makes sense, apply it. If it doesn't, don't. But don't automatically just discount it.
All right, great. Well, Brian, thanks for coming on. Hope to see you out there. I'll be out there at Fort Hood here in a little bit. I'm Roger. This has been Gamer Geeks Radio, and I hope to see you guys again soon. Take care.
Thanks, Roger.